How's it going? How's your day? How's your morning?
It's pretty good. I
Yeah.
woke up late, went out and shot some basketball hoops,
Ooh. How
and
many you make? How
ooh,
many you shoot? How many you make?
today was not a good day. It was a bad day for shooting hoops.
Off day.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, I don't know if you like to shoot hoops or play basketball, but some days you're in the zone and sometimes you're not in the zone.
I used to dribble around. We had a one on the garage. Classic
Like
suburbs one on.
over the garage door.
Yeah, like on the in between the two garage doors. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, mounted on the wall. That's
Mm-hmm.
definitely classic. I think
Yeah.
we had growing up, we had the like standalone, the one with like this. You could buy it, I guess, at like a Walmart or something,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's just like it's like a crowbar looking thing. So it's got the flat thing in the back with all the sand that's weighting it down,
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, I don't know why I can't
The
describe it.
the I know what you're talking about. The
Yeah,
cul-de-sac thing. Every cul-de-sac has one at
exactly.
the end where the kids play. It has like wheels. You can
Yes.
move it uh from the street back to like wherever.
Yeah, I feel like we had that one in like junior high school. That I don't know if we use that much, but you kind of, at least in a neighborhood like that, where like we had a backyard, but it was like on a hill, so we couldn't really. It's not like we could play a lot of games or do activities in that space just because it was like sloped. So
Hmm.
like having a basketball hoop was kind of like, you get some friends over, toss
Yeah.
the ball around. But yeah, I've been doing that lately because I don't know, it's just a way to like exercise that isn't running or biking, which I like to do, but I don't like to do it as like exercise. I just
Right.
like to like leisurely bike.
Yeah. I can see that. I don't like to I don't know. Running is the one that's the most boring to me.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how people do it for fun. I understand like the idea of accomplishing something like doing races and stuff like that. But like going out for a jog as a fun thing to do, I don't see that.
Well, yeah, I'm be curious how many people who run as like a form of exercise view it as like fun versus like I just got to do it, kind of like an exercise. Because I don't even understand what people do the race thing. Like,
Oh, you know.
because I feel I don't know, like if you grew up running, then yeah, maybe it makes sense as a continuation. Like I have a cousin who's like ran cross country and done track and fields like pretty much all his life. So he does like running now as like a form of exercise, right? But it's
Mhm.
not like he turned like 27 and was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna run a marathon, which I feel like I know a lot of people who've done that. Or like
Yeah.
I don't run normally, never been interested, but what else am I gonna do but run like the New York City Marathon? It's like, well, you could just run, I guess, but I just
Yeah, I
never
think it's
understood
for
it.
like the accomplishments or for like
Yeah.
the medals. It's also something that anybody can do, like at any age, as long as your legs work and you're like healthy enough to
Yeah, because you could
to
walk it
run.
too,
Oh,
right?
you could also walk it. Yeah.
I wonder if the New York one is a marathon where you have to have certain qualifications. Because I know some marathons
Ooh,
to like avoid, the people who are just like, well, I'm just here for the medal, the participation or whatever, and I'll do it in
yeah.
12 hours. And maybe they have like certain requirements where it's like you got to do this or do that. But I don't know. I just
Well, you have to apply. Everybody in my family has done it.
oh really?
Yeah, yeah. You have to. I know you have to apply for it, and you have to pay. I think.
Oof. I don't know. To me, the idea of paying money to run, what is it, 26 miles? Is that a marathon?
I think so.
That seems like
Yeah.
a lot. But to pay money to do it, and then Is it? I guess you have to train, right? Like you really
Yeah,
just can't. You really just can't
definitely.
just like do it.
Yeah.
Because I was just gonna say, because it's on whatever day on the weekend that just screws your whole week and weekend up, right? Because afterwards you're just probably in pain.
Yeah, my father said he never wants to do it again. But I think they are doing it again. My mother is doing it again.
Yeah,
Well, so this year, I think this isn't interesting. I don't know. This year, like the way they did it was a lottery, or maybe they do that every year, but because they're obviously not going to do it this year because it's not safe.
right.
So like whoever was in it gets to be in it, but it's like spread out throughout the next couple of years.
Oh, I see. So it's
So
not
if you were
all just
supposed to be in the 2020 or 20, I think 2020 was canceled, right? So if you're
yeah.
supposed to be in that one, then you'll either be in one within the next 5 years or something.
Gotcha. I mean, yeah, I guess I don't know. If I gun to my head and someone's like, you have to run this marathon, I would.
I'd say
I
shoot
definitely
me, shoot me in the brain. Oh.
don't miss. That's what I'd say. Well, I would, because you always hear the stories of like someone who's like, oh, they run the marathon and they just like hopped on the subway or hopped in a cab and then just like got out and then
Mhm.
uh and then like finished the race or whatever with this like amazing time.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like I would try something like that, or like or I just like go the other way with it. It was like everybody's like super serious. They got their running shorts on and their water bottles strapped to their back and all that stuff. I would just like come. I would do it like a beer marathon or something like that, and just like crack a beer every whatever. I would wear Heelys. I'd probably wear Heelys so I could roll some of it.
Yeah, I wonder if they allow Heelys. If they've
well,
caught up with the
there's that.
the technology of
Yeah,
Heelys.
there was that marathon
I
runner who
yeah.
ran it barefoot, so they must
Uh,
allow some discrepancy with the
Grace.
shoes, because
Yeah.
100% people run the marathon with those gross like finger shoes.
Yeah.
People run the marathons with those shoes.
Yeah, those are disgusting. I don't understand, like, okay, I get it. The like thinness of them, and I don't really know what it's supposed to,
Well,
how
so
it improves. I don't know.
right,
Lighter. I guess it's lighter. I don't
yeah.
understand the presence of toes. Why not just make it why not just make it rounded? Because that's the weirdest part is the toes.
Is it supposed to, maybe, and I'm just guessing right now, is it supposed to like spread your toes out to give you like a wider like footprint, so to
I mean,
speak?
how much wider is I don't
I mean,
think
I don't know,
so. I think it's just meant to be like
to freak people
a
out,
barefoot, meant to feel like a barefoot.
right? Well, I guess like the barefoot and like those really thin shoes are supposedly better for your like feet and doing all that stuff, because I don't know, it doesn't, you just have more of a contact, like a correct contact with the ground, assuming you know how to run properly.
Hmm.
But yeah, all they do is just freak me out, man. They gross me out. I'm just like, it's worse seeing that when you're like at Target and some dude's just like, you know, looking at toothpaste, and then you look down and you see his
Oh,
barefoot teeth.
yeah.
It's like a blue shoe on his pale skin. It's weird. I,
Yeah,
I I never got that.
yeah. I'm not a foot fan.
You're not like Tarantino. You're not a foot fetish dude.
No, no. I fast forward when he shows feet.
You're just like, no, thank you.
I don't want to see that.
Yeah, I feel like
But I wish. I mean, that's a good fetish to have.
foot
Like,
fetish.
like any, because it's
I don't know, bro.
easy. It's easy to see a foot.
Yeah, I know, but
Like
don't you
you can
want your?
just.
I don't know. This is my opinion on fetishes. Is that I feel like it should be something that has some semblance of privacy to it. Because if it is something that is public, I feel like if you're really into that, that'll get you in trouble. And if you have the ability to
Mhm.
just see your fetish, just like as soon as you walk out your door, I feel like that's trouble. That you're no pun intended walking into some trouble here.
Yeah.
But if it's like, somebody you like somebody to like kick you in the balls or like um role play or whatever, there you kind of would have to do that indoors. Although, there are people who do it, in public too. But um I feel if something is like, this is my thing and I really like this, it really gets me going, and I can just walk outside and see people doing that, I feel like that's potentially a problem.
Yeah, I guess so. What I'm saying is I wish I had a fetish. I don't.
Yeah, I wonder if there's how they have like
What's your fetish test? I know
yeah,
that's
like
not what you're gonna say, but
no, it was basically that. Like, what if there was like input some information about yourself
yeah,
and we'll line you up with your correct fetish.
like what kind of dog is right for you? And then there's another tab on that same website that's what's your fetish?
What's your fetish?
Uh,
It's like an all. Well, I feel like those. I feel like everybody's done some version of those BuzzFeed
yeah,
surveys where it's just like, which,
Hogwarts. But
yeah, exactly. What Harry Potter character school are you in? And it's just like, what does this even matter? Um, it's
you
just
ever
like,
you ever take like because I've taken those tests and then you tell someone what your results like I'm like Gryffindor or something like
right.
that. And they're like, "Oh, I could see that. Yeah,
Like,
I
what the
could see
fuck are you
you being in this fictional like yeah, you have the qualities of I guess it's the same thing as like an astrology sign. It's like, "Oh, that's such a Libra thing to do." And
right.
it's I
That
asked a question. I don't know, like
oh, you're such a Gemini acting
yeah.
like that. And we're like,
I'm so
what?
inquisitive, but
I know. Have you ever gotten your star chart, or I don't know what it's actually called, that your astrology thing done where you have to give like your birth, the time of your birth, and like all of that stuff?
no, I don't think so.
I got it
No.
done a couple of years ago. Somebody was just like, what is it? And they just did it like quick or whatever. And I don't know, like that stuff, it feels like it's definitely like some part of it, like The Secret, where it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy where you're like
Hmm.
you're almost looking for those like cues and those things to happen, just because they've almost been implanted in you. Not to say that like, I mean, I don't know what the veracity, if you were born in March versus September, if you act a certain way, like this or act like that, or how much is kind of like, you know, kind of conditioned as part of that. It was just like, oh yeah, well, you definitely have a dual personality, which is why you're, a Gemini or something like that, or a Leo or
Yeah.
whatever. I never. I know it's a big thing with dating. Like I'll definitely get asked that. Will people be like, "What sign are you?" And I'm like, "What does that matter?"
Yeah, imagine basing your whole future off of what sign somebody you're on a date with is.
Yeah, you
Being
must
like,
get to.
well, we could never date.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like,
Our
oh,
parents would
okay.
never allow it.
Yeah, something you had no control over,
Hmm.
which is when you were born, and now you're going to determine. And that's the other thing too, is there's always like, whenever you're like, oh, well, I'm not really like that, we're just like, oh, well, you're like low in this category, but you're higher in this category. I'm like, oh, so I could have qualities from the other astrological signs
Well, you have
within me.
like a moon, like
There's,
a.
yeah, there's
You want
definitely
me to like try and describe something I know nothing about? You have like a moon
describe
sign.
astrology to me.
Yeah.
Give
So I
me an
think you
astrology reading.
you have a solar sign and a lunar sign, and then your solar one is the main one, and then the lunar one is like how. I mean, I don't know.
And that's the other thing too, is they like every year or two, just kind of like how Pluto, they were like, oh, it's not a planet, oh, it is a planet. They do that with the signs, where it's just like, oh, actually, based on this calendar, like if you're at this in this like kind of range of dates, you're actually this sign and you're not that sign. And it's just like, all right,
Yeah.
so it's just it's just a bunch of stuff,
Hmm.
just like any other stuff. Like you can, people will say that about religion, where it's just like, well, if you believe it, then you believe
Hmm.
it. But it's hard to kind of like have this justification for why it is giving you all of these other things, or why
Well,
it's
yeah,
taking these
everybody's
other
just
things.
looking for some sort of control.
Yeah.
So you're right. That is religion. Because, like, what? I don't know. What's the reason to believe in something? Is to like uh, to have control over your life. To feel like this thing controls your life.
Yeah, of meaning. But it also,
Yeah.
it kind of goes to like, so if I'm born in a different country and I am raised in a different religion, like all of that kind of starts to kind of crash into each other. It's just like,
Hmm.
oh, what's the right religion? Is there like a common theme that is just clearly everybody's milking off of?
Can you convert to an astrology sign like you can a religion? Like if
Oh,
you're
just
going out with someone, you're like, I'm gonna convert to Judaism so I can marry you. I'm gonna convert to being a Cancer so that
yeah,
we can.
exactly. I feel like that would probably offend them. They would be like, that's not how this works. And I'm just like, well, this is how I believe it to work. So
Yeah.
yeah, because when I was in college, I definitely got into, because my first 2 years in undergrad, I went to a school where there was definitely a lot more religious people, and I had this class. It was kind of like an amalgamation of all these like general ed courses, just mushed into one kind of like program. And so it like covered like English and a little bit of history and social studies and all those things, but it was taken as this one kind of like program. And you would have opportunities to break into smaller groups within that program and like talk and discuss and kind of like have those things on a book or on a movie or something, with a smaller group. And I always remember like getting into arguments with people about religion, because it's not to say that like I'm right, you're wrong, but it's like I have a little bit of openness, at least to hear an argument about why religion might be positive versus why it might be negative, whereas they would not want to even, they couldn't even contend with like the discussion.
Hmm.
And I remember like having a discussion with somebody, and they're like, the Earth is 5,000 years old or whatever, and I was like, all right, well, how do you explain like fossils? And they're like, well, fossils were like put in there by by God or whatever. And like getting into these arguments where it was always like, I would never get like angry with them. It was just more of just like trying to figure out and understand what their line was, where there's like, well, this is not really you know something I necessarily bang with, but everything else is fine. And I feel like if you have that line, or if you show that line, you almost kind of can see the cracks in the armor, and you're just like, oh well, if you're able to question this, then why can't you question that?
Hmm.
um but that was always like a thing. And that's a whole, like, anti-religious people, also have their you know fanatics, and their people who are just like, oh, there's nothing. And I think it's just like, who knows? You like that thing, you like this sports team, I like this sports team, and it's just different.
Yeah. I think that's a good way of approaching it.
But there are definitely those weirdos. Like, did you ever do you remember Richard Dawkins?
It sounds
He's
familiar. Who is that?
I guess he's like he was a theologist.
Oh no, I
And he
I I think I was thinking of Richard Dawson, the
oh,
game show.
Rich, the Price is Right,
I think
right?
Family
Oh, Family
Feud,
Feud, yeah.
maybe.
Um, you've
Uh,
probably seen a photo of Richard Dawkins. He's like a
I can
prototypical
look him up.
like anti-religious type dude, where he's like vaguely British. He's got like thin glasses, and he's like he has like white hair, and he just like wears black shirts a lot. Um, but he had this like kind of like argument with like religious people to kind of be like, well, if you believe that, I believe that there is a teapot that's like orbits the sun. And just
Mhm.
because we can't see that the teapot orbits the sun doesn't mean that I don't put faith or believe in it. And it was like his way of like being like, well, you believe in God, so I believe in a teapot around the sun. You can't disprove that there isn't a teapot surrounding the sun. And it was just kind of like, both of you are assholes and no one's right.
Yeah.
But people get, they get feisty about that.
Yeah, there are wars
Yeah,
over
tell me
religion.
about it. Why can't there be like wars about like fun stuff?
Yeah, our famous cotton candy war.
Yeah, exactly. Classic
But
cotton candy, the haves and the have-nots.
yeah,
The what is it? The Hatcliffs and the McCloys. What is that? Hatfields and the McCoys.
what's that?
Apparently, it was like a famous feud between two families. I think around like the Civil War or something like that. Um, I don't know why I thought about that, but yeah, famous feuds. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, just all get along. It's just what if nobody talked? What if we had a I don't know.
Just no one
We
talks.
had yeah, nobody talks. There'd be no wars, right?
Yeah, that's true. I was thinking about this the other day. I'd love to hear your opinion on it.
Hmm.
Who do you think have what sports league has the dumbest athletes? Like categorically across the board, these are the dumbest people.
Hmm.
Because I,
Well,
I'll
let's.
tell you, I'll give you my little insight, and then let me know what you think, and then you can go off that. I
Well,
feel like,
I'm gonna work it out. So I
yeah,
think
yeah, yeah,
NBA players have to be the most savvy, right, in terms of their like advertising and stuff like
yeah.
that,
I think so.
business moves. So I don't think them. Um, NFL, possibly NFL because they all start so young and they're all given so much money,
Yeah,
right? So they can just make a whole bunch of mistakes and also
yeah.
brain injury. So maybe they become
Right. At some point after, I'm thinking more like in the prime of whenever these athletes are in these leagues,
yeah.
like who's the dumbest?
Hmm.
I would almost have to say, I think baseball players are probably the dumbest.
Yeah, I guess because a similar thing is how young they start.
Right. Because there's definitely got to be correlation between at what age you can start to become a professional, which is,
Mhm.
when potentially your education could stop.
Well,
Um,
maybe hockey though. Maybe I think
ooh,
hockey
hockey too. I,
because
yeah,
um, well, there's no real strategy to it that the players have to worry about, right? Because all
oh,
you have to do
I
is
think there
like here's
is.
I think it's here's your position, get the puck in there. I'm a goalie, I stop it from going inside. That's your only job, right?
Well, I also like hockey, so I have to defend hockey a little bit.
Well,
That
I
there
like
is,
baseball, so I have to defend.
yeah, there. I think there definitely is. Um, there. I think you're correct that they start young in hockey, but there is strategy in hockey. Obviously, there's strategy in baseball. Maybe we could use the metric of like who says the dumbest shit, because I feel like
Okay.
I hear a lot more baseball players say dumb shit than I do hockey players. But part of that is probably because hockey players are conditioned to not really say anything.
Yeah, but that's
Like,
another thing is they solve their problems by fighting each other.
yeah, that's true. So does baseball. Well, they try to. Although baseball
Sometimes.
fights are kind of like they're like slap fights
Yeah.
because they don't want to hurt their hands.
Yeah, you got to think about your hands.
Got to think about your hands. Clearly, I think like NBA, NFL, because at least they like both of those sports for the most part, you kind of have to go to college. Whether you are actually like
True.
doing classes and doing that kind of stuff in college is one thing, but you at least have to have some continuing education. But I think when you look at like the pure like prototypical jock, I think about this sport, and that kind of fills a majority of my brain. I think racing might be one too.
What kind of racing? Driving or running?
Driving. I think
Driving.
there are probably more smart people who do running, but I feel like racing, because you could literally start when you're like 10,
Mm-hmm.
and all you have to do is just like, Ricky Bobby, just go
Make left
fast.
turns.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe Formula One drivers are a little bit smarter because they have to like go, they have to turn right and also left. But
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's weird because like obviously they have some intelligence. All of the athletes have some intelligence in order to like get to that point, because they're so supremely in tune with their sport and the rules and like what advantages they can do. And I'm trying to think of like when you take them out of that realm, out of their comfort zone, who's the dumbest?
Mm-hmm. So who you saying? MLB?
I think baseball players are the dumbest. Baseball players, I'm going through the sports like tennis. They're probably like rich kids for the most part, so maybe they have like they're
The
not
American
so
ones, definitely.
yeah. Um, skiing, snowboarding might be the dumbest. Snowboarders.
Yeah, because they're just about having a good time.
Snowboarders are surfers. Like I think if your job, that's why I'm also thinking baseball is, if your sport is you basically being outside for a long period of time, that just like affects your brain.
Right, because you can't be in the outfield thinking of when you have like the greatest pitcher on the mound. You can't be on the outfield thinking about baseball, thinking about the game like for hours. You can't
It's
be, right? Your brain
There's
has
no
to.
way. There just can't. I mean, that's why I feel like you kind of have to be dumb to play it in a certain way, or like not that you have to be dumb, but like
Patience.
you can be dumb because it's like there's not a lot going in your brain, so you can just kind of sit there and just
Hmm.
kind of stare for hours. And then you do that, in a 7-day week, let's say in a normal baseball season, you're playing probably 4 days out of the 7, maybe more,
Yeah.
and you're just cooking in the sun. And I feel like baseball players, they also have those things where it's like the rope necklaces and like other things that are just like, well, this makes me throw better.
Superstitions and stuff.
Superstitions,
Yeah.
yeah. And maybe I don't know. I think most athletes are dumb, but if you spend a majority of your time outside baking in the sun, it probably makes you a little bit dumber than most.
But they wear hats.
Exactly. They wear hats and they wear sunglasses. And they do chew. Like I feel like if you can do chew while you play a game, kind of got to be dumb.
Mm. Well, it's to keep their mouth moist.
Why? Why do they keep their mouth moist?
I don't know, but that's why you chew gum. I guess it's a boredom thing, but it's also so your mouth doesn't get
Exactly.
dry.
Who chews gum? Dumb people. Dumb people chew gum.
Really?
Dumb people chew gum. Yeah, why don't you just brush your teeth and use mouthwash?
I chew bubble gum.
That's just because you like the taste of bubble gum.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Are you saying I'm dumb?
yeah, you're dumb as shit, Mark. Well, you look at a cow chews cud, and they're dumb as shit.
They make milk.
They make milk.
I know things about cows. Ask me a question. Cows make milk.
Cows make milk. That's true. Yeah, I feel like baseball players. We should ask some baseball players. You know what we should do is we should do like a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or some sort of like no, who's smarter than a fourth grader, and then have like athletes on there.
Hmm.
Have a baseball player, have a hockey player, a basketball player, and a football player.
Well, I think maybe like they're all dumb, but the stars of the sport are the smart ones, right?
Hmm.
Because you're a star for a reason. Like there are, how many players are there in the MLB, right? And there's
So many,
only
yeah.
like 100, who are like, let's say 50 who are just incredible.
Right.
So those might be the smartest ones.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, the stars for sure have some. Yeah, they have to have some know-how in order to get to that point, and in order to maintain it too.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Well, so that's the answer. Everybody's dumb.
Everybody's dumb. Glad we nailed that one.
Yeah. And again, the way to not be dumb, just don't talk.
Yeah, just don't. Yeah, it solves a lot of your problems if you just don't say anything.
Here's
People will
some
be like,
advice. Nobody can tell you dumb if you don't talk.
I mean, it is because it's very true. If you're just like the quiet kid in class, people are just
They're
like, "Oh,
like,
he's
ooh,
mysterious.
he's always thinking.
What is he thinking? I never know what you're thinking about. You just are so quiet." And you're just like, I'm like, what? I didn't hear you. And he's like, nothing.
Cows make milk.
Cows, cows make milk. Wow. You know so much about cows. Cows make milk. Because that's basically an athlete is them, they're being quiet. And then you're just like, man, how do you hit a curveball? And he's just like, you just got to hit it, man. That's it. And he's like, wow, that's
Yeah.
just amazing. Cows make milk. All right, should we get started?
Let's get started.